Not seeing sales in your print-on-demand business can easily come down to just one thing. The most successful print-on-demand sellers spend so much time thinking about their mock-up photos. A lot of times, this tiny piece of real estate is the way that we are going to make sure that someone clicks on our listing and purchases it. A lot of times, customers are not reading descriptions. They're not even looking at what the title says to find more details. They are solely making their decision to purchase based on that tiny little image that is against hundreds of other ones. So it's really important for us to pack a big punch with this small piece of space. Now, there are so many mock-up mistakes that I see new sellers making, and it's really important to get a good grasp on how to make good mock-ups and how to avoid some of these really common pitfalls if you want to really grow and scale your business and start making real sales and real profit. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you some of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of sellers making and share what you should be doing instead, as well as give you a quick tutorial on how to make a really good mock-up photo. So make sure you stick around. You don't want to miss any of these. Let's just jump right into it. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see so many print-on-demand sellers making with their mockups is they are creating mockups on maybe a place like Canva and just basically taking a photo of a mockup and then overlaying their design without doing any contouring, without kind of moving the design to move with the fabric or with the person. So this results in their mockups looking super flat and not real at all. So even though we are using mockups in our business, we're not necessarily taking photos of real models wearing our real designs, we still want to make sure we're giving a customer the experience of seeing what it's going to look like in person as closely as we can. So this means we want this to look like a real garment, a real item that they would purchase at a store. And when a customer sees that there's kind of a design laying flat or kind of floating above the image, that tips them off that this is definitely not a real photo. Now, a lot of people know that sellers, they do use mockup, but it kind of is just something that makes people a little bit uncomfortable and they want to stay away from because they don't really know what this item is going to truly look like. So if you've ever created your own mockups and didn't really know how to do all the adjusting and contouring to make it look really real, I'm going to share with you the tool that I've been using for a long time. For years, I've been using Placeit, which is a subscription service for making mockup photos, but they also have a lot of design features too. But they've kindly sponsored this video today. And so I'm going to show you how you can easily in just a minute make a really good mock-up photo that is going to auto format for you, so you don't have to worry about putting it into something like Photoshop and doing all of that yourself. It's really easy to use. Now, one of the next big mistakes that I see a lot of new sellers making is not using any mock-ups with people in them. Now, a lot of times people think, okay, I would rather just use a flat lay with only the garment in it, which sometimes that works really great, and I don't think you have to completely stay away from those, but sometimes selling an item that a person is actually wearing is going to pack the biggest punch. I initially started selling a lot of my items on Etsy, and I only used those kind of flat lay garment photos, which still can be really great. Then I switched over to primarily posting a lot of my new designs on mockups that had actual models in them. Now, when you use a mockup with a model, I definitely don't think you need to include the face, you don't need to include the whole body, but really you just want to include around below the neck to around where the end of the shirt is. That seems like the really sweet spot, and you can see that it's on a person, but you're not getting distracted by who this person is. Now, I think this just gives people a really good idea of what this is actually going to look like, and sometimes it helps you stand out amongst all the other listings that are just using maybe a flat lay or really generic mock-up. So having a little bit of an environment is going to make a big impact and makes your products look really good. Now, Placeit again has a ton of different mockups with models in them, and I'll actually link to a video that I have that I share some of my favorite ones and how to use them. But if you've never tried posting your designs on actual people, this could be a big difference, and you really could see a lot more clicks and a lot more views just making this one simple switch. Now, another huge mistake that I see a lot of print-on-demand sellers making that is such an easy fix is maybe you do have the right kind of mockups, you have them on a model, or you have a really good flat lay that you're using, but so many times I see on Etsy and other sites that the mockups are just way too far away. So we want people to be able to actually see what is on the item. Now, there's kind of a sweet spot when it comes to cropping your mockup photos. Now, we don't want the mock-ups to be too close where they can really only see the design, but they can't see any of the environment. They can't see the actual shirt itself, because that's not really doing us any favors. But I've also seen a ton of people posting mock-up photos where the mock-up is sitting like really far away. You can see the entire room. You can see their whole body. And it makes it really hard to get a good idea of what the actual shirt says. Again, when we're thinking about mock-up photos, a lot of times on someone's laptop, let alone something like their iPhone, the mock-up photo is going to be so small. So it's super important that people can actually read or see the design that is on the mock-up. So like I said before, cropping it kind of around the neck area and just below where the shirt ends or a little bit above that, and making sure you can see a little bit of the environment. So maybe if they're in a living room or an office, you can kind of tell what that is, but you don't need to see the entire room. And that's going to make a big impact. So if you've been making your mock-ups way too far away or maybe even way too close, think about kind of adjusting that placement to make it look really natural, but still be able to be seen. Now, the next big mistake that I see with a lot of new sellers is maybe something that you initially wouldn't think of as a mistake. You might think that they are doing the exact right thing, but in fact, it's wasting them a lot of time that they could be spending making maybe new designs, researching new products, and that is trying to make and post way too many mock-ups per item. Now, Etsy especially does give you a lot of photos to post mock-ups for your particular item, and the recommendation typically is you want to fill a lot of those. However, I think people can get really bogged down trying to make a bunch of one-of-a-kind mock-ups for one listing. So maybe they have a particular design and they want to show like the front of it for the thumbnail, but then they also want to show a picture of it hanging up. They want to show it with another item. Maybe they want to show a mock-up they made in another color. And very quickly you can find that that time really adds up, making one-of-a-kind mock-ups for every single photo. And we know that the biggest punch that we're going to pack is going to be that initial photo. So I'm a huge proponent of spending a ton of time working on that initial photo that is going to drive the click onto your listing. Because if we don't have a really good first photo, it doesn't matter if all our other photos are great too, because no one is ever going to even see them. So we want to be spending the most time and most effort where it makes the most impact. And that is going to be on the first photo. Now, there definitely are some people that have different opinions on this, but the way that I have found that works really well and is time effective is to create a one-of-a-kind mock-up photo for that first image on a place like Placeit. And then for the other photos, the things I'm putting there is going to be the auto-generated mock-ups that you get from using a place like Printify, and use each one of those colors. So if you weren't aware, when you use Printify, which is my manufacturing partner of choice, I'll also have them linked down below, they are going to auto-generate mock-ups for each color. Now, some people choose to just use these for the whole item and they don't even switch out the first mock-up, but I definitely think that's a mistake. You need to switch out that first photo, but I definitely think you can go with Printify's mock-up photos for each of those different colors. So say you're selling this on 4 different colors, you can include just the generic white background mock-up of each of those. That's going to give people also a really clear idea of what the exact color and fit is going to look like. And then if you have extra spaces too, I definitely recommend having a size guide and then having maybe your shop policies as another image in there. And then you've filled up quite a few of those image slots, but you've only made one really custom and maybe a little bit more time consuming mock-up. Mock-ups can definitely be the thing that is super challenging for people that takes a lot of time to do. So if you can eliminate that step for like 5 or 6 other mock-ups, you're going to save yourself so much time that you could be using in a better way. Now, another big mistake I see a ton of sellers making is actually wasting a lot of money buying mock-ups kind of one at a time or a la carte. So with my mock-ups, I love to do a lot of experimenting. I like to change things up pretty often. And sometimes for a good mock-up, you're going to spend quite a few dollars just purchasing a single one, and then you might down the road want to change that out if you don't want your whole store to be filled with all of the same mock-ups. So I have found personally that I really like having more of a subscription-based option when it comes to my mock-ups. So using something like Placeit, which is what I've used for years, if you pay a monthly subscription price, you have access to their catalog of thousands and thousands of mock-ups. And this becomes really important if you're selling selling maybe more than one type of product. So say you only sold t-shirts, maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal to buy 5, 6, 7 different mock-ups and use those. But if you want to sell things like tote bags, mugs, sweatshirts, different types of t-shirts, notebooks, cups, all sorts of different things, then that means you're going to be buying one-of-a-kind mock-ups for each particular item, and that can really add up, and you're definitely going to want to change those up at some point. So I love paying one price and then getting access to a library of thousands of mock-ups on tons and tons of different products, so you really can try things out. And if it's not working, if you want to switch it out to a new mock-up, you can totally do that. And this means you can also kind of A/B test different things. So maybe you have one particular mock-up for an item in your shop and you want to keep it there for maybe 60 days and see what kind of traction that's getting. If it's doing really well, great, keep it there. But maybe it's not getting a lot of views, it's not getting a lot of clicks, and you know this is a really good niche. Try swapping it out for a new mockup that you find on Placeit and seeing how that one does, and kind of compare which mockups are doing better. That is a great way to kind of just test some of that data and refine your process and make your store better and better, is just switching things out and taking note of which thing is giving you the best result and doing more of what's working. Now, another huge mistake that I have seen so many people making that they don't even realize is making mockups for the wrong product type than the actual item that they are selling. Now, with mockups, I definitely think that it doesn't always have to be exactly the exact same brand of a product. So maybe you have a mockup of just a generic t-shirt and then you are selling a Bella and Canvas. I personally think that as long as it looks pretty much the same to the customer and you are also including those Printify auto-generated mockups, that is going to be totally fine. What I mean by actually having the wrong type of mockup is I have seen so many times that maybe a t-shirt is actually kind of a crew neck style, but then they used a mockup that has like a V neckline, let alone they have a gray t-shirt that they're selling and then their mockup shows like a heathered type of t-shirt. So you always want to be checking to make sure that you are getting as close as possible to representing the actual item that a customer is purchasing. Now, with using mockups, it's never going to be 100% perfect, but this is the case with even big box stores as well, and a lot of times even with regular product photography, that they are actually photographing the real item a customer is getting. Things like lighting and where they are is going to impact how it looks. So when you have the physical garment in your hand and compare it with a photo, colors are always going to be slightly different and it's always going to look a little bit different from the actual product. So you just want to be making sure that you are matching the color as closely as possible and getting as close as possible to the actual product you are selling. This comes really important too when you're thinking about things like cups. Oftentimes lids of cups and different straws are going to look wildly different on different models. So try to make sure you are getting one that is going to be the exact same so the customer isn't confused when they get their item and maybe it doesn't have the same latch that the one they saw in the mockup does, or it has a different color straw. So those are all things you really want to be paying attention to make sure you're really representing this item well. So I'm going to quickly go over how you go from actually making a product on Printify and then going to Placeit to create a mock-up photo from that. It's a really simple process that just takes a couple minutes. All right, so I am logged into my Printify account. Now, if you've never sold with Printify before, they are a manufacturing partner that seamlessly integrates with your Etsy shop. I'll have them linked down below in the description too. It's totally free to use them. So I have gone over to the t-shirt section to find the shirt that I want to sell. Now, I'm probably just going to go with this Bella and Canvas unisex shirt. I sell a ton of them in my stores. So let's go ahead and go down here and click the manufacturing partner we're going to use. So I'm going to go with Swift POD. They have a ton of colors and really good pricing options, and just click start designing. All right, so over here, all we're going to go ahead and upload a design that you have ready to go. So if you haven't created a design before, you definitely need to do that first, but I have a design ready to go for Mother's Day here. So I'm just going to go ahead and push upload and then go to my device and find that. All right, and I've added that and now it's just loading onto here. Now for this design, I'm gonna make sure it takes up a lot of the canvas here. That is looking good. And then I think that I want more of maybe a sandy color. So I'm just gonna go ahead and select another variant here. So they have tons of different colors for this, but I'm just going to go down until I find that tan color. That looks good. And I could also even do kind of a light pink color as well, because this is for Mother's Day and I find that pink shirts do tend to sell pretty well around this time. So I'm going to go ahead and push that soft pink as well. Now I'm going to go over here and go to preview, and this is where you're going to see the mockups that Placeit is going to auto generate for you. So you see here, this one, it's just flat on a white background, which these typically work good for kind of the second, third, fourth photos when you're showing all the different options, but it's not the best option for your actual mockup photo. And you may even think, well, I could use like a person in the photo, but even these, they kind of just look a little boring and plain, and tons of other people are also going to be using them. So when we go ahead and save our product, I'm going to just show you what I would be doing for my mockup instead. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this, and then we're going to head over to Placeit. Now on my Placeit account, I've just gone over to Mockups, and then I have sorted by women right here because this is a women's design that we're going to be doing. And then I'm just typically going to scroll through these and find ones that are really speaking to me and stand out. Now, a lot of times once you find one that you like, you can go ahead and just kind of put a little heart on this to save it for later. Then you don't have to go through scrolling through all these photos. But for today, I think I actually kind of like her. She has a little bit of a cool vibe. And again, we're going to be cropping most of this out, so it doesn't really matter what like the top of in the bottom of this is going to look like. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and add this design here that we just used for the other upload. All right, so we went ahead and uploaded this design, and we're going to change the color of the shirt to be that tan one, but first we're going to work with this positioning. So the first thing we want to do is definitely bring this a lot closer to the top. That's how it's actually going to print from Printify, so we want to make sure we're matching it pretty closely, and then we're going to make it a little bit bigger here until it really matches what is actually going to be given to the customer. So that's looking pretty good. It's auto formatting here, so you can see the contours of her shirt. If I were to move this over, it would auto adjust and it would redo the contours. If I put it lower, it's going to redo that. So this makes it just super easy that you're not going to have to kind of warp the image yourself. So let's go ahead and crop that. Now, the next thing we want to do is change the shirt color. So I'm going to go ahead and click this tan color there because that's the color I really want to highlight for this design. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to go up to the top right and click download, and it's going to start processing our mockup. This will just take a second. And then instead of clicking here to download, I'm going to go over here to where it says crop. Now, this is where we're really going to format it perfectly for a place like Etsy. It's not going to be a tall photo. We are going to crop it so it is more landscape. Now, the size that I typically like to use for Etsy is going to be 2700 pixels by 2025. So you see, it's giving us a lot of space on the edge, and what we're going to do is just use this slider until we can fill up this image here. Now, you're still kind of seeing the bottom of her lips, which isn't the worst thing, but a lot of times I like to crop it more around here. So that's looking pretty good. We can still kind of see a little bit of the background. We can see what else she's wearing, but the main thing we can see is the shirt, which is what we want. We wouldn't want it to be way too zoomed in where we just see that, and we wouldn't want her to be too far away either. So this looks pretty good, and we're going to go ahead and download that. Now, all we're going to do is click here to download the cropped version, and that's going to go to our computer. So let's head back over to our Printify item, and I'll show you how easy it is to just swap this new image out. All right, so I am back on my Printify account, and all I'm going to do is go ahead and edit a couple things before I go ahead and publish this to sync with my Etsy store. Now, if you don't know how to sync your Etsy and Printify account, I have a full walkthrough tutorial here that shows you every step of the process. It's really easy. Now, for my mockups, the first thing I like to do is I'm going to go ahead and deselect the back mockup as well as the first person mockup. Now, it's going to make you actually keep the front view, but that's okay because we are going to actually use that as well. But we're going to go down here, and typically I would do a lot of editing for the title and description here as well. But for the sake of this mockup video, I'm just going to show you what you need to do for that and not edit anything like the price or description. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and publish right here, and that's going to sync it over to our Etsy store. Now I'm over to my Etsy shop, and since we had it hide in the store when we did push publish, it is over in our draft section. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is click this gear icon and push edit. Now to change out these mock-up photos is super easy. So all we're going to do is either just click this to add the photos or just drag and drop it from your downloads. So I'm going to go ahead and select that new photo we created. All right, so it's added that photo, and I'm just going to go ahead and make it into the primary photo here. And then for each color that you do, so say you were selling this on 3 or 4 different colors, I would keep this flat lay mock-up here so that people could see what the exact color and shirt is going to look like. But this primary one is the one we are going to adjust. Now there's a bunch of other things that you will want to edit on your Etsy listing. I have a lot of other videos on how to do that, but basically that is just how you're going to swap out the mock-up photo if you do create a better one on a place like Placeit. Now again, thank you so much to Placeit for sponsoring this video. I truly do love them. This is one of the first tools that I ever invested in my business. And again, they don't just have mockups, you can even create designs with them and do all sorts of other things too. So it's really a great all-in-one tool for print-on-demand sellers. I'll have all their information linked down below for you guys if you do want to set up an account with them and check them out. They also have free options too if you just want to see what it's all about and try it out, and then later maybe upgrade to a paid subscription if you're really liking them. Now I also have a fun video revealing some of the mockups that have made me the most money in my print-on-demand business. I'm gonna link that here if you do want to check it out and watch. Make sure you grab my free cross-nation guide down below in the description. This is going to have over 40,000 different niche combinations for you to use and start making sales in your print-on-demand business. It's a totally free download that you can get down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.